The concept of the reauthoring map is something that I find profoundly moving. It gives me the confidence that I can be the author of my life, that I can reauthor my life and take it into a space where I feel better, where I have richer experiences, where I have positive thoughts, warm feelings, supported feelings, things that I like around me, the preferred story space. So, this is the path that I chose to share with my daughter Jayanti. She's 19 years old. She is autistic. It took a lot of courage for me to use this platform to connect with a person with autism. But autism is my workspace, it is my life space. So, this is very important to me because this is going to empower me to continue on this path and to make narrative practices a very natural part of the work I do, not something that I have to think and do, create artificially in order to do. Hopefully, it should become a part of the fabric that I use for my everyday life experiences. And so, few things I kept in mind and kind of mentored myself before starting this session. One is, what are we going to talk about? So that is where I realized that there is a lot of power play when we work with a person with autism, and we get to decide many things. We get to decide what to talk. We get to decide whether we should talk about a problem, not talk about a problem, whether we can take an easier way or whether we should choose something more complex. How much of their privacy are we able to maintain? Would we want to talk about this if it was about us? So these are many things that made me aware of how acutely responsible that one has to be. The second thing is to avoid the whole thing of identification, which is a lot of what we use when we work with people with autism. We use identification to understand if they are on the same page as us. Would you like to show me the picture of your mother? Would you like to show me a picture of your school? Can you point this out to me, please? We do it respectfully, but it's a very large part of the work we do. However, I had to realize that this is another space altogether where it's not about proving anything to me, but rather it became my responsibility to give her enough support and more to be able to engage without having to prove herself to me. That was the second thing. The third thing was to make her feel safe, make her feel comfortable without any sense of hurry, which she would be able to pick up by my behavior. So we worked at home when everybody else had left for the workplace, and there was her caregiver Jagita, whom she is very close to. She was doing the recording. Fourth is that one of the earliest lessons I learned at Umeed was to have a picture perfect learning space ready for your student before she walks in. The activity, the goals, the reward, everything would be ready so that you don't make that person wait. But here again I had to untrain myself because she is not a student, I am not her teacher, and we are in a space together where we are going to engage in something together. So Jayanti was a part of the space where we were going to work even before the material was put up. We were just sitting, we were waiting for the pictures to come from the printer's place. We went through the pictures together, we sorted them out together, we put up the chart papers together. We did all these things to create a sense of comfort and no surprises at all. And the pictures were categorized into 4 different areas. So the first area was, who is Jayanti? Who am I? And all the things that relate to her. Her parents, her siblings, her family, what she does at work, what she does at home, what she likes, what she enjoys, and a lot of some other things as well. So this sheet, I did not ask her to put up for me because this would come dangerously close to identification. So I would have to do things like, can you pick up the picture of your mother? Can you pick up a picture of the computer that you do data entry in and stuff like that? So I put it up for her. She was very much there in that room. I was talking about it and I put up the pictures and arranged it for her so that we could start communicating naturally without getting into identification. So that was one thing I did. So we started this whole engagement, both Jayanti and I said, Jayanti, let's talk about all the things that you do, Jayanti, all the things that you like, you know. And I was just waiting, pausing, waiting to see what she picked up, and she chose to talk about masala dosa. She left all the other pictures and she zeroed in on the picture of masala dosa, which she loves. So we talked about that for some time. We talked about the fact that she signs the national national anthem every year. So we signed the anthem for some time. We actually did the activity. Next, we went into the chart, which is what is the problem. And that's where I had actually put up pictures of the problem in very, very clear visuals so that there was no doubt about what we were talking about. So I had to shift from this into the second space, and I had to do it in a, again, you know, this brings power play because I could have done it like that. Jayanti is not going to argue with me or she's not going to stop me in any manner. So this puts a lot of responsibility on us when we work with a more vulnerable person. We are calling the shots. There is no two ways about it. So how to make it more shared is something that one has to really work upon. So I said, Jayanti, there are so many things that you do. There are so many things that we all do together, Jayanti. But there is a problem, isn't it? There is a very big problem which affects everything. It troubles you and it troubles everybody. And I said, can we talk about this problem? So there was no doubt that she knew what I was talking about. So both she and I, we pointed to the picture, we talked about it, we stayed there in that space for a good few minutes, and then we talked about what the problem does, who are the people it affects. And this is where again a lot of the control was in my hands, the narrative was in my hands, because of the sheer challenges of cognition and communication, both that a person with autism experiences. So I had to keep saying things, waiting to see what her response is, to see how natural it was, and at the same time not ask her things like, can you show me, can you point? I had to avoid that also. So we talked about the fact that the problem affects Jayanti. It affects her mother, it affects her father, it affects her teachers, it affects her siblings, it affects every person who we come into contact with. And then the time when I really felt that Jayanti and I connected was when we moved into the next category of what effect does this problem have on all of us? And that's when, you know, I took Jayanti's hands into mine and I looked at her and I said, Jayanti, this really makes us sad. And at that time, there was a perceptible shift in the room. Sorrow had entered the room. Sadness had entered in the room and occupied one more chair and one more space. The way she looked at me, the way she just gazed into my eyes, and there was a perceptible heaviness in our hands, in our gaze, in the atmosphere in the room. There is no shying away from that. And that's when I realized that this is not a project. This is not something where I'm trying to achieve something to show to somebody. It suddenly had taken on a much bigger dimension at that moment when that expression in Jayanti's face changed. And from there, we had to move on. So that also became a moment of quandary for me, because there are no rehearsals for these moments in life. So I realized at that moment, in that 1 second, I realized that the next sheet was going to talk about what I want. The first sheet was who am I? And all the things that Jayanti stands for, does, feels, experiences. Second is what is the problem in my life? The third is what do I want to be happy? That was the third sheet. And where were we now? We were on the fact that we are very, very sad because of this problem. Now, from this moment of sadness, we had to move to what I want to be happy. So that's when I realized that to move from sadness to happiness, it's not like one jump. It's a journey. You have to walk that path. So at that moment, there was no doubt about it that I was struggling for creating the pathway for that. So I spoke about strength, because I was struggling. How do I move from sorrow to happiness? So I said, Jayanti, no more sad. No more crying. We don't want to be sad, Jayanti. Sadness finished. We want to go on. So we will be strong and we will start becoming happy. So that took some work. And then both of us together picked up the happy picture and then we put it up and then we started talking about what do you want to be happy. So there were pictures of so many things that I know makes Jayanti happy. And there were a lot of others, some more pictures also that I had kept. So that she had the choice to talk about something that she would just choose to talk about. So she picked up Maggie, she picked up ball, she picked up the manjiras that she plays when she sings Sai Baba's bhajan. And she picked up some of that. And then we moved towards the last, which is the landscape of action. So Jayanti, you want to be happy. What is it that you have to do, that you want to do to become happy? So we picked up that happy card and put it on that last chart and said, what is it that we want to do? And there was a fourth library of pictures that had pictures of Jayanti engaged in various tasks. Plus there were some non-Jayanti pictures as well. So that would help her to understand that these are things that she's actually doing. Things like drawing on slate, drawing rangolis on slate. She loves it. She can do it for hours. So she started picking up pictures. Somewhere along the middle of this whole conversation, I took a back seat and I sat down. And it was Jayanti who was standing. So that also gave her, that larger than life persona. I was sitting down, I was passing on the blue tag to her. So that was also another moving, point. And she started picking up pictures. And somewhere along the way, she actually engaged in those tasks. So that's another thing. We need pictures, we need objects. We also need enough time for a person to actually engage in that task at that moment. So she went and got a box of blocks because she had picked up a picture of blocks. So when she brought the blocks, she dropped the blocks and they scattered all over the floor. So that's when it was a profound moment which was just happened by chance. And she probably thought I would help her. I also just waited. Neither did I say I would help, Nor did I say I won't help. I just waited. And that whole thing, she went on to actually pick up every piece. It was almost as if she was building her basket of happiness. There was a very, very positive energy that was created at that time. So that also taught me that spontaneous moments should also be allowed to happen, because you never know what will come out of it. Particularly when you're working with people with autism, people with cognitive issues, you never know what is that sparkling moment when the matches will just get lit and something luminous will emerge. And then she chose to throw balls in the bucket, and the kind of joy that she had, the kind of strength that she showed at that time made me feel very, very happy. And somewhere in the middle, I just caught hold of her hands and I said, Jayanti, talk to me. When she was in the middle of throwing those balls in the bucket, that was a moment which I didn't want to lose that moment. I wanted to share that moment with her. So I said, Jayanti, talk to me, Jayanti. Why are you doing this? You're doing this to be happy. You're doing this action, you're choosing this action to feel happy. So that was the moment where we dwelt. We went back a little to the problem. Again, we have this problem. This problem makes us sad. We don't want to be sad. Sadness is finished. We want to be happy. So we do things to make us happy. So it was a wonderful, I would say, life-changing experience for me. And I propose to continue with this channel of communication with Jayanti on this particular platform where I have invited her to engage with me. We're going to continue working on this together. Thank you.